March 17, 1943. Berlin. Turbitsufer 7678. A folder slammed onto the mahogany desk so hard that coffee splashed from Admiral Wilhelm Canaris's cup and stained reports that, if the Gestapo found them, could cost lives. Impossible, he said. The Americans must be feeding us lies through turned agents. Through the tall windows of the Abwehr headquarters, Canaris could see the Landwehr Canal, where Rosa Luxemburg's body had been dumped 24 years before. Now, as Germany's chief of military intelligence, his hands shook as he held a report that challenged not just Nazi propaganda, but the math behind the Reich's belief in victory. According to intercepted communications and reports from agents in Mexico City, Ford's Willow Run plant was producing one for engine B-24 Liberator bomber every hour. The B-24 was a machine of 1.5 million parts, 450,000 rivets, and 30,000 separate components. An aircraft of 18 tons rolling off an assembly line faster than Germany could build a basic Kugelwagen military car. Major Friedrich Wilhelm Heinz had checked the intelligence 3 times. The numbers did not change. Neither man knew that this moment would trigger one of modern warfare's worst intelligence failures: the German system's refusal to grasp, believe, or communicate the true scale of American industry, dooming the Reich through a fatal misreading of cold arithmetic. The collapse had started 2 years earlier. In 1941, Luftwaffe General Karl Kler brought Hermann Goering reports from the Washington military attaché, General Friedrich von Boeticher, saying American aircraft output was nearing 2,000 planes per month. Goering laughed. Americans could make refrigerators and razors, not warplanes, he scoffed. In December 1941 at the Wolfschanz, days after Pearl Harbor, he told Hitler the Americans were bluffing. Democracy makes them weak. Their mixed population makes them inefficient. Their Jews make them corrupt. They cannot produce what they claim. By March 1943, German intelligence networks across the Americas were reporting what Nazi racial theory and economic assumptions said could not be true. Mexican industrialists friendly to Germany, Spanish diplomats, Swedish businessmen passing through Detroit, and even letters from American workers to relatives in neutral countries, all repeated the same impossible fact. Ford's Willow Run alone was building more heavy bombers than all of Germany's aircraft factories combined. Oberstleutnant Nikolaus Ritter, head of Abwehr Air Intelligence, studied the data for 3 weeks. A former Lufthansa pilot who had lived in America for a decade, he knew U.S. industrial power. From his Manhattan apartment in the 1920s, he had watched the Chrysler Building rise. In less than 2 years, Herr Admiral, Ritter told Canaris, if these numbers are right, and I believe they are, Germany has already lost. It is now only a matter of math and time. The intelligence arrived through dangerous channels. Georg Nikolaus ran the Abwehr's main network in Mexico City, cultivating sources among U.S. businessmen moving between Detroit and Mexico's oil fields. They spoke casually of what they saw, unaware that German agents wrote down their dinner talk. On February 3, 1943, American oil executive Harold Morrison attended a reception at the German-Mexican Commerce Association. After several tequillas, He described a tour of Willow Run set up by Ford to impress potential investors. "Gentlemen," he said, not knowing that Wolfgang Blau, a German agent posing as an Argentine leather merchant, was memorizing every word. "What I saw defies belief. The line is over a mile long. The building is so vast that clouds form inside, and sometimes it rains in the factory. They have 40 to 1,000 workers, including thousands of women, black women, building the most complex machine ever created." He sketched on a napkin to bomb bays with 4,000-pound loads each, for engines at 1,000 to 100 horsepower. Production in sections, sub-assemblies flowing like rivers into a sea. Wings from one direction, fuselages from another, tails from a third, all meeting at precise points. Surely such complexity means breakdowns and delays, Blau probed. Morrison laughed. "That's what Consolidated said. You can't build planes like cars." Ford broke the bomber into 60,000 operations. Each worker repeats one task. A woman making breakfast yesterday now installs hydraulic lines in the tail. They trained them in days, not months. More detail came through Franco's Spain. Colonel Jose Ungria, Spanish military attaché in Washington, kept close ties with U.S. aircraft makers while secretly passing intelligence to Germany in exchange for tungsten. In March 1943, at an Argentine embassy reception, he met Charles Sorensen, Ford's production chief and architect of Willow Run. Thinking he was talking to a neutral buyer for post-war sales, Sorensen opened up. "When I visited Consolidated's San Diego plant in 1940, they built B-24s outside in the sun, each one different, taking 180,000 man-hours per aircraft. I knew we could do better." Pressed for process details, Sorensen explained, "We would build bombers like cars, moving the aircraft past stationary workers, each performing a specific repeatable task to gain perfection through repetition." On workforce challenges, he was blunt. "We built an apprentice school training 8,000 weekly. Women are 40% of our workforce. They're better at fine detail, small hands, more patience. Black workers run sophisticated machines. Boys of 16 manage logistics. Democracy means using every available hand." Through Swedish, Argentine, Japanese, and Turkish channels, consistent reports piled up. Swedish engineer Erik Lundberg visited in March 1943 and wrote, "The plant works with efficiency beyond European experience. With 1,600 specialized machine tools, many for single steps, and perhaps $200 million invested in tooling alone." A coded message from Japanese Commander Toshi Kazumai to Tokyo, intercepted by German intelligence, confirmed. "This one factory makes more aircraft in a month than all of Japan." By April 1943, German intelligence had 17 independent confirmations. At peak, Willow Run alone reached 650 B-24s monthly, with total US B-24 output exceeding 1,400 per month. Desperate for ground truth, Canaris had earlier green-lit Operation Pastorius, saboteurs inserted by submarine into the United States. George John Dash, leader of One for Man team, had lived in America for 20 years. His secret orders were to verify aircraft production before any sabotage. landing at Amagansett, Long Island, before dawn on June 13, 1942. Dash soon surrendered to the FBI, tormented by what he knew about American capacity and the implications for the war. During interrogation, he said something that stunned his captors. Canaris himself told me Berlin doesn't believe your production figures. They think Willow Run is propaganda. He wanted photos, head counts, shipping records, proof that would force Gearing to accept reality. You mean they don't believe we're building a bomber an hour? The FBI asked. Dash laughed bitterly. I lived here. If Ford could make a car every minute before the war, they can make a bomber every hour during it. They called me a defeatist. On April 20th, 1943, Hitler's 54th birthday, Canaris brought the file to Gearing at Carenhall, the Reichsmarshal's lavish hunting estate. The meeting became legend among intelligence officers for Goering's rejection of reality. Canaris laid out photos, intercepts, and dozens of reports, like a dealer spreading a losing hand. Herr Reichsmarschall, we have 17 independent sources. Willow Run is producing 1 B-24 per hour at peak and has maintained this rate since January. Gearing, now over to 180 pounds, picked up a photo of the mile-long line. Canaris, do you take me for a fool? These are wooden mock-ups, propaganda props. The Americans want us to think they make planes like sausages. That plant makes 50 per month at most. Canaris produced another document, a Pennsylvania Railroad manifest showing aluminum shipments. They're consuming 16 million pounds of aluminum monthly at this one plant, more than our entire output. Gearing barked a laugh. Where do they get this aluminum from? Their Negro workers? From their women riveters? You've been duped by American lies. A week later, at the Wolfschanz, Canaris briefed Hitler in front of Jodl, Keitel, and Goebbels. Führer, if the Americans make 1,400 B-24s monthly, plus B-17s, fighters, and British production, the bombing will soon exceed our defenses. Hitler replied as expected. The Americans can mass produce simple goods cars. Refrigerators, but a bomber is not a car. It needs precision, skill, devotion. We took 6 years to prepare. They claim 16 months. Impossible. Jodl began to say that even a quarter of the figures would be false. Hitler cut in. They entered the war in December 1941. They cannot build this miraculous factory and such output so quickly. Unknown to Nazi leaders, Canaris had secured film of Willow Run through American contacts in Switzerland. Smuggled in a Spanish diplomatic pouch, the 5-minute reel showed the line in motion. In a locked room, Canaris and Hans Oster watched B-24s moving along the mile-long line. Men and women, black and white, doing precise tasks as a clock and frame marked the pace. "My God," Oster whispered. "It's true." Canaris lit the film with his cigarette and watched it burn. "We cannot show this. They would call it fake or call us traitors." In November 1943, a Spanish diplomat's aerial photos of Willow Run reached Berlin. Analysts spent weeks. Their conclusions: parking lots held about 12,000 cars, 3 shifts. 47 finished B-24s sat ready for delivery. The assembly line was visible through skylights, aircraft spaced exactly as reported. Rail sidings were stuffed with freight cars. Photo Chief Herman Bernard wrote, "Imagery confirms human sources. Rate appears accurate. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment." Shown the photos, Goering dismissed them as trick photography with scale models. Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister, and the only top Nazi who truly understood industry, quietly obtained the US figures. In a diary note of May 15, 1943, found after the war, he wrote, "If Willow Run's numbers are even half right, we face annihilation. They make more aircraft in a month than we do in a year. But I cannot speak this truth. It would be my death." Dr. Otto Lindorf, head of SD Inland and a trained economist, analyzed American data and told Himmler in December 1943 Ford's 1941 peacetime output was 1.1 million vehicles. They've converted that capacity to bombers. By June 1944, B-24s alone could drop our entire 1940 London tonnage every day. On Christmas Eve 1943, Canaris received US production projections for 1944, 18,000 B-24s, 12,000 B-17s, 1,000 B-29s, 40,000 fighters, 86,000 aircraft total. Hitler's response: they claim they will make more aircraft in 1944 than all nations have made in all history. Absurd. By February 1944, Canaris was removed, suspected of defeatism and treason. His replacement, Walter Schellenberg, was a loyalist who would not contradict Hitler or Goering. Reality, however, could not be delayed. On February 20th, 1944, during Big Week, the US 8th Air Force launched Operation Argument. Over 1,000 heavy bombers hit German aircraft factories. In 6 days, they dropped more tonnage than the Luftwaffe had dropped on Britain. During the entire Blitz, Adolf Galland told Goering, "I counted more than 800 bombers in one formation. These planes are real, and they are dropping real bombs." On June 6, 1944, more than 11,000 Allied aircraft filled the sky over France. The Luftwaffe could put up fewer than 300 fighters. Field Marshal Hugo Sperl signaled Berlin, "The enemy's air superiority is absolute. Our intelligence was correct. We deceived ourselves, not the Americans." By April 1944, Willow Run hit its peak. In 468 clock hours that month, to 9-hour shifts, 6 days a week, produced 453 aircraft, one finished B-24 every 63 minutes. The plant had 42,331 employees, including 11,000 women, 26%, 3,800 African Americans, 9%, and 1,100 disabled workers, 3%. This single demographic snapshot, if believed, would have shattered Nazi racial dogma. The inferior and the weak were outproducing the master race by orders of magnitude. After the war, surviving German intelligence officers exposed the full failure. Walter Schellenberg testified at Nuremberg, "We knew the truth by early 1943. Every professional understood the numbers were accurate, but to report them was to risk execution for defeatism." Hans Bernd Gisevius wrote, "The tragedy was not lack of intelligence. We were drowning in it." The tragedy was leadership that refused to believe facts that contradicted ideology. Those who told the truth paid dearly. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, executed April 9, 1945, at Flossenburg. Hans Oster, executed the same day. Alexis von Rohen, executed in October 1944 for ties to the July 20th plot. Gisevius escaped to Switzerland. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey later confirmed Willow Run's record. 685 B-24s from 1942 to 1945, with peak monthly output of about 650 and an hourly rate sustained for months. Unit cost dropped from $238,000 to $137,000. In post-war interrogation, Speer was asked why Germany did not believe. To accept a bomber an hour meant accepting that our worldview was wrong. He said that democracy was strong, that diversity brought strength, that women could do men's work. It meant admitting we had started a war we could never win. Who would tell Hitler that? Rose will Monroe, the real Rosie the Riveter, ran a rivet gun on the B-24 line. She and thousands like her had never worked in industry before Pearl Harbor. We knew we were building something important, she said in 1984. Every rivet helped end the war. We pulled double shifts, slept in the parking lot. We had brothers, husbands, sweethearts flying these planes. The refusal to believe the Willow Run intelligence had catastrophic effects. Fighter production lagged because Germany kept building bombers into late 1944. Resources bled into wonder weapons instead of practical defenses. Strategy assumed hundreds of enemy bombers, not thousands. Diplomacy stalled because leaders did not grasp certain defeat. German economists, reading captured documents, realized the true scale. Willow Run cost $200 million to tool. German investment in the entire aircraft industry from 1933 to 1945 was about $400 million equivalent. Willow Run floor space was 3.5 million square feet. All German aircraft factories together totaled about 8 million. Willow Run used 2.5 million kilowatt-hours monthly. The Americans had built a single plant consuming more than entire German cities. By war's end, the full ledger was clear. Total B-24s, 18,188, with Willow Run building 8,685. Total B-17s, 12,731. Total American aircraft from 1940 to 1945, about 303,717. Total German aircraft from 1940 to 1945, about 94,700. The United States made 3.2 times more aircraft than Germany while fighting a two-ocean war. Historians call Germany's intelligence failure about U.S. production one of the most consequential in history. It was not a failure to collect. German agents gathered accurate, detailed facts. It was a failure to accept. Leaders refused to believe what contradicted their ideology. Dr. Gerhard Weinberg concluded that German intelligence had accurately assessed American production. By early 1943, had leaders believed and acted, Germany might have sought peace 2 years earlier, saving millions. The lessons are stark. Cognitive bias. Accurate intelligence is rejected if it conflicts with core beliefs. Ideological blindness. Politics can overrule math. Systemic failure. Systems that punish unwelcome truths get comfortable lies. Fatal miscalculation. Underestimating an opponent leads to disaster. At the 1985 dedication of the Yankee Air Museum at Willow Run, Rosie the Riveter Rose Monroe met former Luftwaffe pilot Hans Rudel. "How did you build so many so fast?" he asked. "Honey, we just went to work every day and did our job," she said. "Nothing fancy. Punch in, build bombers, punch out. Democracy isn't complicated. It's free people doing their best. We were told democracy made you weak, that diversity made you inefficient," Rudel answered. "We were told lies, and those lies killed millions." In ruined Berlin in May 1945, American officers found a final German report on Willow Run dated April 20th, 1945, Hitler's last birthday. Willow Run production confirmed. "We reported this truth 2 years ago. We were not believed. Germany dies not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of wisdom to believe intelligence. That contradicts what we wish to be true. Let future generations learn. Reality does not bend to ideology. Mathematics does not yield to mythology. Truth ignored becomes tragedy." The report was never delivered. By then Hitler was in his bunker. The 1,000-year Reich had days to live, and thousands of American bombers, many from Willow Run, delivered the final argument. German intelligence had tried to make 2 years earlier. The verdict of history is clear. German intelligence collection was excellent. German intelligence acceptance was catastrophic. In the refusal to believe uncomfortable truths lies a warning for every nation. Reality does not care what you believe. Those who deny it for ideology will be broken by it. Willow Run built more than bombers. It built proof that democracy works, that diversity strengthens, that freedom produces. German spies counted the planes. German leaders believed none of it. That disbelief helped kill the Third Reich as surely as any bomb.